was, he will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. Pretty sure I don't need to go into how Andrew did that. But I do have a great story on this. After Andrew died, in the office, it was worse than a funeral home. It was just horrible. And we would all sit around and something would happen, or I don't know. Anyway, randomly, everybody would just, their face would turn red and they'd get up and leave the room. It was awful. And we had some really crazy stories break within that next 2 weeks. And our editor-in-chief, Joel Pollack, went on CNN's Soledad O'Brien one morning to talk about one of our stories. And he schooled her, frankly. It was great. And he came back, and it was actually a little while before he came back. And he was just really powered up, you know, and everyone was saying, that was Andrew, right through you, what you were doing, how you were engaging her. And I can't remember if it was that time or another time, because they had us on a lot during that week, all the networks, you know, talking about all these stories. I remember Joel came back one day, and he was really late from coming back, and he goes, I just got thrown out of CNN by security. And it was because they had, after he had gotten off the air, they said something, I think it might have been about the charade story, but it was about something, and they were wrong. And he stood there in the CNN green room and said, let me back on to respond right now. You're wrong, you're wrong. Now you have to understand, Joel is also another Orthodox Jew, and he's a very nice, soft-spoken guy who weighs 50 pounds less than me. And he's just a really nice guy. And so to see him standing, to imagine him standing there saying, you let me back on, I am not leaving this building until you let me back on, and respond to this. And then they finally had security escort him out. And so he came back and he was just... So that's my story about Andrew inspiring us. It was after he was gone, and I know he inspired so many people before, but in his death, I think he inspired so many. On the site today, I handle comments and a lot of other stuff on the site, and I was reading through the comments on all of our tribute pieces, and I saw so many comments that said, I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know who Andrew was until he died, but I've come here ever since, and I just got to tell you, he's really inspired me and what he's done, and I've researched him ever since he was gone. So I know that Andrew has inspired people, even in death, than he did in life. Okay. My phone keeps locking. I apologize. Another thing about inspiring people through the ranks, and this is one of the most important points I want to make, because this is how I really feel that my life is led. Sometimes when people ask me what my title is, it's officially associate editor. I like to say hamster and wheel number 2 is essentially what I do. I am the hamster that turns the wheel behind the scenes and things happen. There's a reason why not everybody knows who I am and all of that stuff, because I'm not really anybody. I just kind of turn a wheel somewhere. And we need those people out there. Because guess what? Not everybody has that +1 personality that will go straight into Occupy and yell, stop raping people. And people don't think that, you know, you're a madman. They're just like, yeah, keep going, charge on the hill. There are those people out there who have that +1 ability and can inspire people. But guess what? They need people behind them supporting them. And that's what brought me to this organization. When I first met Andrew, it was at UCLA. And I had actually gotten to know Larry O'Connor first, and we were starting to do the radio show together, and we had never met, and I barely knew who he was. And I said, fine, I'm just coming out there with my sister, and we're just going to hang out, and we're going to have a podcast party, and it'll be great. And so I get there, and he goes, okay, so Andrew wants us to go to UCLA to go kind of stake out, do a sting with Howard Zinn. And if you guys don't know who Howard Zinn is, get to know who he is, because his history curriculum is being taught in your schools, and it is destroying your history. But he was a progressive history forger that just made up crap and put it in school and put it in a history book. He actually admitted to Democracy Now!, which by no means is a, you know, conservative organization, that he made up the Muhammad Ali speech that he put in his history book, because he said that if he weren't so intimidated by the things of that day, he would have given that speech. That was his reasoning. So this is who Howard Zinn was, and the History Channel did a story on his books. They did like a visual representation of The People Speak, which is his history book. That is, again, taught in your schools. So Josh Brolin and the producer and another actor was there to talk about this, and they were going to do some readings, and it was all, you know, crazy stuff. And so what was going to happen is, like, there was a couple of editors there, Andrew was there, a guy named Adam Baldwin was there, and then my sister and I were going to come along, and it was possible they were going to feed us some questions, because we were young enough, we could look like college students. I dressed like the best hippie I could, and we were going to go and get fed questions. And so we were sitting there, and the thing was going on, and it was like, okay, tell us the questions. I'm ready to go. We can do this. And I look over, and there's Andrew standing in line, ready to ask a question. So the whole, you know, sting thing just didn't work. He just couldn't take it anymore. But that's who he was. But I saw him do that, and I remember once him talking about what was really his motivation on everything. And it's been said tonight before. Andrew hated bullies. And I grew up in a house that really hated bullies. And it was, if there's a bully, you get in their face. It doesn't matter who they're bullying. If they're bullying you, you can let it slide. You have thick skin. But you don't let them bully anybody else. And that's just ingrained in my DNA. And when I heard Andrew say that, I was like, he gets it. As I'm sure all of you did too, whenever you heard him say something. And so I thought at that point, okay, I'm on this guy's side. But it was even later than that, whenever Larry and I were doing our radio show. It was in the middle of the night, like Larry said, and so we often got a lot of exclusive audio from Andrew, because he would just call us as he was walking through airport security, as he was walking home from a restaurant, or whatever, he was just sitting at his desk, you know, contemplating the world, he would call us. And one night, and I'm going to look it up on my phone here to read the quote for you, but he talked about how he thought, he knew that he would take the hits and take the hits alone, in the sense that there was no one from the institutional right that was going to come and save him. And he said, you know, holy crap, I'm sticking my neck out there, and there's no one going to come for me. And it was at that point that it was just like, I know what my job is now. I am here to fight for the fighters. And so whenever we're talking about keeping that spirit through the ranks and getting someone to inspire and to impassion, maybe that's not you, but maybe your job is to find that person that can communicate and that you can look at and say, that person is going to change a corner of the world, and it's my job to make sure that they can do it. So that, I think, is often lost in our politics, is that we don't always need to be the person that's up on CNN or on Fox News or getting our big headlines. Sometimes we need to be the person that makes sure that guy knows that someone has his back and can empower them and can influence them and can say, keep going whenever they're taking the tough hits. Because that's what they need to succeed. And that's what a lot of people's jobs is. And sometimes they don't take it. All right.